Okay, let's get started. I want to just point out, often I skip over, the first 1, 2, or 3 steps, which is pashut. Just important to bear in mind that those are the things you might want to know. So why am I skipping over those? Because I'd rather say something that's like epis mashu, that which you just read from the Dirshu is pashut. I was nisayir to this fact when Rabbi Tzal asked me on Thursday about Nesina Lechatchila on a blach, which we spoke about here. We spoke about it, Nesina Lechatchila directly onto the blach. And I, in my own brain, was still programmed before I relearned it together with the Elam, which is it's Mexican Mavashal, it's on an Aish, and therefore you need to have Sikadir. But I said, I think we spoke about it. And let's just double check. Let's just double check. Maisa, it's like sounds totally bizarre. God bless you. Thank you very much. I went back to my own notes from the shir, and I realized that Rosh Hashanah was Mekel. Rosh Hashanah was Mekel Nesina L'Chila directly on the blech. Kol's man, it's not directly on top of the Aish. Meir Tikakula Rosh Hashanah. Ramesha was only Mekel if it's on the sides where it's not so hot. But Rosh Hashanah is Mekel. This is not our sugya. Why am I bringing this out? I'm bringing this out is because the step before that is the raid. Just if we skip steps, make sure you fill them in. Because if you walk away now and you don't know tachlis, and I took the same chizik to myself. I just said I said it in the shir and I didn't remember it, so I'm holding myself accountable to the same detail. Is that when you walk away from the sikha is when you need to know it tachlis? Okay, what is the story and every single permutation that there is, and similarly, today we're not going to get through coffee, but when we get there, we're going to have to walk away from the sugya saying, okay, tachlis, every single permutation, what's mutter, what's aser, what's the chatzchila, what's b'diavad, and what's shasat what's ma'aseh Shabbos, v'chulu, v'chulu. Now, there are cases that are complicated, like your case with the Ziploc bag, that required another detail, maybe to know, what the matzah with it is. But that was just a moment of chizik, So Gimel deals with all the fascinating ways of bishul, the non-normal bishul b'chama, bishul b'toldas chama, v'chulu. So, which really touches at the leave of what is bishul. What is bishul? And the way to ask the question, or the way to understand, is why would bishul b'chama itself? Why is that mutter? Why is that mutter? So we all know Rashi famously says the words, "Te'ein derech b'shulei bekach." It's not the derech bishul to cook in the sun, which just again in lechol adeyus. I'm not saying this is normal, but if outside your house you have a nice clean cement walkway that the Erev Shabbos you power washed and mamish, it's beautiful, and it's a beautiful blazing hot day, and the floor is hot, as we've all witnessed. L'chol days is called chama. Okay, I knew I was going to get caught up. I was trying to give a case everyone used. Yeah, I know. We're jumping. Okay, fine. I won't go to that case. Hold it. We'll get there in a moment. Fine. Mask. It's going to be a shayla. What is the case? Yeah, what is the case of chama? Good. So we're going to get there in a moment. Okay, so we get there in one moment. Fine. So I don't want to jump. My point to jump, which good, is just to point out there's going to be a case which is mutter to mamish cook, to take your egg, crack it open, and let it cook. But you're right. If that chama or told us chama, we have to know. Just I found fascinating. I found that the OU in like a normal OU document, outorah.org /P/41419. I don't know, it's a document here. It's one of their things here. Goes to Halacha Shabbos. And the next halacha is if your oven is on and you open the door, you have to remove all the food. That's the next halacha, which yeshlad. The previous halacha is you may cook or reheat food on Shabbos using solar heat, but only if the sun's rays directly cook the food. Yeah, we just went from Rashi to an OU document. Yes, we did. Practically, OU weighs in. This can probably be done by using a magnifying glass. Okay, ready, machlekes, we'll get to in one moment. Note, and this is why I wanted to say this, note, you may even cook or reheat liquids this way on Shabbat. That's just to bring out the Chiddush Hadavar. Okay, so what's Pshat in Rashi? We have multiple ways of learning Rashi. What does Rashi mean? Ein derech bishel bekach. The who should we quote? The a lot of paiskim, Iglital, Bereshim says the reason is it's a shinoi bimalacha. It's a shinoi bimalacha. So ein derech bishel bekach. It's a shinoi. It's a shinoi bimalacha. Frektor Berkowitz, Afal normally Washini makes a dira into a dirabanan. Why is it mutter? The obvious kasha. Ula, he says, Shushinoi gomer. Like we find by some malachis. Anyone know another malach we have such a shinoi? Boirer, I want to disagree. I don't think that's the lumdus. Try again. Shini gomer makes something mutter. Where by Boirer, Shini makes it mutter? Boirer, you have 3 tanoim.
Yeah, but we're calling you do it.
No, I argue in lumdus. No, we didn't learn it together. No, close. You're getting closer. You skipped over one block in between. Teichin. Teichin is where we have, if you do a shinui gamor, maybe you need 2 shinuyim, lashon gemara. If you use the kata de and you put it not into the receptacle, which we don't normally have, so a normal plate by us works, it's called a shinui gamor. Okay, that's why it's a mutter. Lemaister Shlomo Zalman says that's not what he learns. He learns a different lamdas. He says that he says ein derech bishel bekach. He says, even though, let me read you a line of Rav Zalman. Avshakus of Rashi, the kuliyam shari do b'mnei deir derech bishel bekach. Mikomakam nir shegam ba'ofen shkin regilim levashel b'chama k'may Dud Shemesh u'chodei megam kin potter. I know Rav Zalman, don't get nervous. Ukechazina be'chamei Tveria. Al karchach kavanas Rashi b'dvarim me'ela loymar de'ein zeh kori bishel. Basically, Rav Zalman just speaking out. Don't say it's like one step off. It's not bishel. Why not? Because it's not. That's how Rav Zalman learned. Now, Rav Moshe, who's going to become famous in a moment for his microwave, has a totally different lumdus. He says the reason is it's lacking in the chashivos. Therefore, it's not called bishel. Rav Moshe in Gimel and Beis, and again in Dalet Tzadiches, says, Ein mivashlim b'chama ella kishein lo yitzim. When do you cook in the sun? When you have no wood. You would never come to learn from R. So he's learning that it's lacking the chashivas because you're only doing it when you don't have something else. That's an important lumdus. Based off of these 3 ways of learning it, comes along the paiskim, and now we get involved in numerous cases. There's really 3 cases that the paiskim particularly talk about. We'll say 4 cases. The first case that everyone agrees is that when something gets the chimum chashmaliyim, a plata chashmalit, it's coming from electricity and it gets hot. Everyone agrees that's not called. That's not even called toldas are, and therefore that's going to be a deraisa. That's going to be a deraisa. It's not really. It's not. I'm sorry, that wasn't in order. It wasn't in order. Leave it on the side. Leave it on the side. That's how he ends off the tshuva. But he says a very important line. It has to be because it comes to Indem the Mishkan. But he says, "Ein mivashlim bechama ella kishein lo yitzim." Obviously, it's not Indem the Mishkan, right? We're multiple steps off. But the way he gets there is he says, "You're only going to do it is if you don't have wood, and therefore, it's in its own category." So when Ramesh gets the microwave, he explains a little bit more. But a magnifying glass, as we saw the OU took a hit over here. Lamaisa, someone who argue, just to point out, the Rambam Karelitz of David Feinstein say no, it's not true. That's a tolda already. That's not called chamalein. It's a tolda. You're using an intermediary to get the sun.
It's in a glass bottle, so it is heating up, right? Let's say you have
Again. we're discussing the sun going on the item. You're all right. The bottom, if the floor is hot, it's a different issue. Let's leave that out of here. You're sitting on a plate. You can take a plate from your house. You walk outside and you sit in the sun and it cooks. That's what we're talking about. So now you take your magnifying glass and they make these solar cookers. You could go have a lot of fun and see how they make all these fascinating zachen with big magnifying glasses. You mamish go cook, gewaldig. Okay, very good. So what is that? What is that? So if it just goes straight onto it, so the Rav Nissen Karelitz, Rav David Feinstein says, no, it's called Tolus Cham and it's Aser. The Meiser Shlomo Zalman does say no. This is the sun. Now, this might be already the Pesach, or the famous of Shlomo Zalman with his Dud Shemesh. He says, what is it doing? Has chuchit rak mirakezes as karnei hashemesh. It's just concentrating the rays, and therefore he wants to learn that is chama itself. That's Rosh Zalman's chiddush, and therefore, theoretically, you want to get a big magnifying glass. You want to take a plate from your house, crack an egg into it, walk outside on a hot summer day, hold a big magnifying glass like the kids do, and it goes and it burns the hole in whatever. Hold it over the egg until it cooks. That would be mutter according to Rosh Zalman. Straight up. Sounds fascinating, but that's what he says. That's what he says. So he says. The only case that this might be normal is the instant meals. Instant meals are cooking with chemicals. If I combine two chemicals and thereby it could cook something, is that going to be mutter on Shabbos? Is that going to be mutter on Shabbos? The problem is, I don't know, the problem is the science, the problem is the poskim aren't talking to each other. They bring in multiple issues.
If you light leaves on fire like that, according to Shlomo, you'd be potter for starting a fire.
You would be putter. It's mutter. You didn't do anything. You didn't do bishul.
If you start, no, avara. It's an avara.
Oh, okay. Oh, that's the next step. Nice. So you're allowed to cook with it. That's what he says. Well, what's gonna?
Well, so then technically, if you have dry leaves and you concentrate off the sun on them and light them on fire, it should be good.
Again, it's not going to be called bishul. The fact that you now have a fire, So, that's a separate separate nekuda. Again, I don't know if avara. I don't know. But the Meister Rebelsky held that bishul b'cham was mutter b'Shabbos with chemicals. I just don't know what the case is. Chemicals. He calls chemicals bishul b'chama. That's what he calls. Again. I understand all the kashas. Lamaisa, Rav Yashiv said it's a problem of Mailid. Rav Yolarbach says it's a problem of Mailid. Rav Berkowitz said it's a problem of Tikkun Mana. Others say it's other problems. I think there's also a problem here, exactly how it's working and what's it doing, and is it heating something that it cooks with or not? I don't know. This is what I'm just pointing out. This is one of the places that the Olam gets involved in, is cooking with chemicals. Again, the mitzias of what happens and if there's a second step here, I don't really know. The last case, I'm sorry, so now microwaves, tachlis, so microwaves. So everyone quotes from Moshe that what? It's a, no, what did you tell me? What does Moshe hold about a microwave? Soldazar. So there are those who want to say, and again, you have to have a PhD in Ramesha to try to say such a thing, that Ramesha gives a tam. And he says that the day is going to come that everyone's going to cook with the microwave instead of the oven. And therefore, it's called Tolasar. Okay, so now we repeat Ramesha, it's called Tolasar. Some want to say, but no, that day never came. And no one in the world will ever cook in a microwave instead of an oven. They're only going to cook there either because it's quicker or because they're lazy or because of whatever. And the oifen habishal might not be as good in the microwave, whatever. So some want to say that if you use Ramesha's svar lahachmir, it can be used lahakel. Now, in Mitzias, it's irrelevant for Shabbos because you can't turn on the microwave, right? You have an electricity problem. The really only relevance is number one, like Rosh Zalman says, that if you're cooking for a chayle, is a microwave going to be better? Okay, Rosh Zalman says yes. He says you're cooking for a chayle sheyesh beisakana. Yeah, these cases, what should I tell you? These cases don't happen. But cooking for a chayle sheyesh beisakana, it's adif to use your microwave. Okay, the one case that's really negeya is by Bishul Akum. Happens to be very negeya, and they use this Ramesh as a raya. Meaning, is there bishul akum in a microwave? In the world of bishul akum, it's a very similar sugya. That if it's not a normal way to cook, it might not be called bishul akum. So some want a taina. If you use this or a maisha, you could say, no, a microwave is not normal, and therefore there's going to be no bishul akum. Now, the maila thereon would be tremendous, tremendous. Everyone's running into issues. What could the guy do in the house? Tell the guy, do whatever you want in the microwave. And you can even do real bishul. You can even make eggs. You can do whatever you want because it's bishul in the microwave. Maisa, the conventional psak is not that way. Almost no one says. I mean, I think this is, if I remember correctly from Bishul Akum, I think Rav Heinemann writes that there's no Bishul Akum in a microwave. Some want to use this in situations where there's an aide in the house and the aide needs to be able to do certain things, that they'll be mitzarif this kula. V'chulu. Again, that's not really our sigya, but that's just to point out how some want to learn Ramosha. Rav Yashiv is fascinating, absolutely fascinating. Rav Yashiv says it's an Isser Daraisa to cook in a microwave. Why is an Issa D'Oraisa to cook in a microwave?
Well, if you consider Togus R is a D'Oraisa, right?
So he says it's Toldus Eish. Maybe it means it's Toldus R, but I don't think it's what he means. Why? Yeah, he says why? He says because it works with electricity. So he wants to say Shapolasay Alidei Chashmal, and he wants to pin the whole Isser on that, and therefore he says the D'Oraisa. Yeah, I don't know. But ulaya, ulayat. That's gonna be fascinating. Lamaisa. Before we end the shlab with something cute, before we get there, this is obviously the whole precursor to Shlomo Zalman's Dud Shemesh, and as we've learned the history, there's different maduras within what Shlomo Zalman held. Then that's fact. How that fact happened, that's lore, right? That's the right way to say it? Yeah, meaning we know that there's different maduras that is psak changed in text. What happened in between? That is.
Why did he change?
Yeah, why did he change? Yeah, why change? Yeah, I thought that knows what's going on. Yeah, well, why did he change? A pure historian would say he was chayzer. He originally thought it was mutter, and as Seif Yomov, he got more educated, more wise. He learned through Hilchos Shabbos again, and a pure historian would say he's chayzer. What? Not a pure one. So I was about to ask a pure historian. L'chayra, a pure historian would be mach. No, a historian with a Talmud Chacham would then do some, black market history and start talking to people around the times and start reading the ksavim of other Talmidim. And then we'll come up with the fact that L'chayra of Shlomo Zalman was bamboozled, to say it nicely, into changing his psak in writing, but they tell you he never really changed his psak. Now there is a sign. Even the first one. Yeah, about this whole part of how he wrote it. Of course. There's the Yukim, if you want to see in the baby wife shtickle over there, you put a explanation point. They want to be medayik for that. And in the baby wipes, in the latest edition, when he says it's usser, in parentheses, he says mi bad velo mi what niyar, something with an explanation point. I want to say that was almost like his sarcasm in text, that he wanted to point out, like, yeah, I'm screaming, like, Avada, I don't hold this. Okay, this is a Talmidim, and Baruch Hashem. But there is a scientific fact also in Dud Shemesh, which we're not going into. There's two different types, which might also be part of his chazara. Whether the water flows through the whole thing, or whether the water just comes through the bottom. That might be a big nafkamina. Does anyone know what I'm talking about? I'm seeing a lot of blank faces over here. No one has any idea. Okay, so we're not going to go into that. We'll just fine. So let's go one step backwards. First of all, before even what I really wanted to point out, and the only thing I wanted to point out is there's a big kasha. It's a big kasha. Let's hear Shlomo Zalman was Mekel. And let's hear Shlomo Zalman was alive today, and there's a Dud Shemesh on my roof, and the Rebbe would tell me, go open the faucet of hot water on Shabbos. So what would I do? I'd say, Rebbe, but the Shmir Shabbos says it's also right. I said, I was the one that did it. Open the faucet. Okay, so what would you do now? You'd open the faucet. Right? For some time, I'm standing here. Okay, we have a Mesa with electricity and Rav Scheinberg. Okay, yeah, fine. That's for lunch. But a Mesa, you'd open it. But you'd have a kasha. What's your kasha? Kasha is, which Rishon Zalman addresses amongst other Gedalia Paiskim. Why don't we say that once it's Matsui, there should be a new Gezerah? Why is this not Nichlal in the classical Gezerah? We now tricked Chazal Kilu. We've created the greatest legal loophole. Lamashal. Let's say these solar cookers and all these fascinating things. Let's say someone actually got it right. Yeah. Let's say someone figured out a way. You make a ganza matzah that the bottom line is Shabbat morning you could wake up, you could take your chicken out of the fridge, you put it onto this guy in a sunny day, and it would cook beautifully. And this would be normal, and this would be regular, and this would be user-friendly. L'chaira, someone would wake up and say, why is it there's so many gezeras here. So many gezeras. There's chama, there's toldos chama, toldos chama, there's gezeras atu. So why is it no stam gezera? No one was bothered by this kasha. This is Rishon Zalman asked on himself. Yeah.
When you cook in chama?
When I turn on the hot water, why is there not a gezera here? Why is that Xera?
What would the Xera be?
I'll do anything, just like the Xera told us Chama to Chama. Told us Ar.
You turn on the hot water, and then the problem he was dealing with is then have the cold water coming into that boiler.
No, even before that. Even the water itself, something, once it becomes a matzui, I'll read you the words of the Har Tzvi, of Tzvi Pesach Frank. I'll read you the words of the Tzvi Pesach Frank. He says as follows. Divzanenu shall odos do the Shemesh that Tzvi Pesach held kechami chama umutter. He held you allowed to use it to Shemesh. Val harasa in a sevesh shehoyer lo shalfi divrei Rashi. Where did this all come from? From Rashi, like we started. The Shari shekaisi dein derech v'shulei bekach. Right, that's Rashi. V'chama be'ar loy mechlafa. And we're now worried you're going to come change and come to go now. Turn on your oven. The ligzar ha atua. That's why it's mutter. Frakter yesh makom leimer. Tim Kain bizman hazeh shadavar matzi ma'oid v'derech v'yishulei bekach hare yesh lichol gam mashem mizvashel b'chama atzo b'chol gzeira. It should be part of that. It's a gzeira. Very good. We're coming from Rashi. Ein derech v'yishul bekach. It's not normal. It's only when you don't have something else. All these things don't exist. This is the most normal, regular thing. So why is it not nichlal in the gzeira? He's at. Whoa. That is Ramesh's whole svara on a microwave. So whether that svara of Ramesh would apply to Dud Shemesh, ulayavsha, and that is what they asked of C. Pesach Frank. That is the kash they asked him. Okay, good. So this is the most common way of cooking water that we have nowadays. It's not random. It's the most common case in the world.
But other ways of Bishop would it be part of
Yeah, that sounds pretty normal to me. I mean, like you said, Ramesh was pretty confident to do this already. So, Lemaisa, the Tzvi Pesach answers. He doesn't answer your answer. He's answering differently. But that's why the way you're answering it, I think you need to fine tune. But the way Tzvi Pesach answers, he says, "Hayitzuvasay alav b'shitos shekvar nemer b'yushalmi ein ma'isifin alex diris v'kim v'kshev izman nam loy gazru." Allah ad kan. Shom Zalman in Mechashlema says similarly that Lamaisa, I don't care that it's normal, that it's regular. I mean, they seem to be saying even if everything was, we don't create new gezeris. Now, that's Stam in the Siga. I'm not going. I thought the Elam hacked how the whole thing worked. I'm not going to get involved. Because there's a lot of Torah Shabbat Peh here. There's a lot of mitzias over here that you have to understand. You have to figure out how the whole thing works. Wasn't Shem Zalman talking to Heintika do Shem Hashim or not, or whatnot? But and then Stam, you have to be bold enough to be willing to be makel on something that in print nowadays says it's awesome. So the parting line, I think, is that most say you should not use water from Dud Shemesh and Shabbos. That's the parting line. If the Talmidim of Shem Zalman use it or not, that I don't know. And I'll leave it at that. Ray Flam, you were talking about the next shlav. Is what about the water that comes in? We're talking about even that water itself. You're talking about what if the water comes in? What's that level of bishul called? And that's now going to open up. No, it's both. It's even on it itself. Is that called bishul b'chama?
You cook with that water.
Yeah, which that also happens because as you take out more water, it causes more to go through. And That's also it's two halves of the same shayla. You're discussing is more regular because that's negia in all water. Every time you turn on hot water, why can't I turn on hot water today? Let's say I turn off my boiler. Can I turn on the hot water? The answer is no. Why not? Because the cold water comes in and cooks in contact. And that's called cooking, but told us, or that's going to be usher. There are those who know their boilers and they time their boilers and they know how many hours it keeps the water hot. And what they do is they'll turn off the hot water on Friday, 1 o'clock in the afternoon, and they'll know after showers, by tomorrow morning, there's not that much hot water left in the tank, and therefore it's never going to get to Yad Saledis by. And theoretically, you could do such a cheshbon, and then you can know even the water that comes in is not Yad Saledis by. Theoretically, that is all possible. You could turn off the intake if you're a plumber. Yeah, if you're a plumber. I don't recommend it if you're not a plumber because you're going to blow up your system. It's not recommended. For those who are able to, for the rest of us, I stay away from the heater. I stay away from the heater. Now, there's $1 million shayla, which is what happens if you have a mistake turning on hot water on Shabbos? What do you do now? This is the sugya. What do you do? So I think what everyone says is, yeah, we don't know why you close it. We don't know why you close it, but you close it. What's the shayla? The shayla is that you turn on the hot water, cold water is coming in, it's getting cooked in contact. So if you turn it off, what happens? The water cooks faster. If you keep it on, more cold water comes in and it cooks slower. So by turning off the hot water, you're causing it, ironically, the boiler to boil it faster. So maybe you should be mechuyev to leave on the hot water for the whole Shabbos. Which, what's the massive sayrich? I know, like this is like mamish and aguna. Bills. So someone do the math. How much water in one faucet is coming out over the course of 24 hours? Go look it up. How much is it? $70. Okay, so l'chayra, you have to spend $70 to prevent an issa d'oraisa. Not l'chayra. You definitely have to. You have to spend up to.
Let's say it's 200.
Good. You have to spend how much money on an isser?
All of your money.
All of your money. Very good. Very good. Yeah. So wait, I didn't say it's usher yet. I did not say it's usher yet. I didn't say it's usher yet. That's the shayla. Lemaisa, the Shevet Levi comes along, and the Shevet Levi says you're allowed to close it, as well as the Aznid brew. Why? It's very difficult to understand. This Lemaisa is the parting line, even though Rosh Zalman and the Tzitz Eliezer and Rav Yashiv and the Shmir Shabbos, they all say not to close off the faucet. And therefore, l'chayra, one would think you have to leave it on. You now spend $70. Okay. Motzei Shabbos, you're not going to have your hot water for your shower. No. And that's life. And that's life. Lemaisa, Diane Fisher says something geschmack. He says, be machlet, have in mind that you're not going to use the water. Then it makes it into a psikresha dol echveslei, which is a chiddush, by the way, because usually we don't dan nichle aloy nichle klape what you want achshav. We dan it globally, usually. That's what he says, and then he says it's a mlach sheisich legufa, it's an issa derabanan, it's a misasek. Throw it all in, make one big chicken soup, and he says you could turn it off. The Shevet Levi in the Kovetz Mi Beis Levi, which I think is reputable, for Davis, reputable. He says, mutter, you're allowed to close it. His reasoning is very difficult. He says, the cold water coming in, mischamimim, mahir yisa, the skiers, but lo yavi gurama. Okay. She'ena yisa tayrelis rabbanim. Last time I checked, is here rabbanim or aser. Va'av tavi psikresha. Okay, very good. Which is a machlek is arach and taisvis. Im aser beloy nichle, and we paskin like Taisus, so he's asking all the kashas. Mikol makoim eina ela iser derabanan, v'imkein have a grama b'derabanan, u'b'makoim hefsid shlei tzarich lahashir zaberes patuach ad shegarmu amayim achamim shari. That's what he says. I don't know. The shaila is, by the way, why is...
Who cares?
First of all, is that called a hefsid? Hefsid is subjective. That's number one. But number two is I don't even know if it's called a hefsid. I don't think it's called a hefsid. Hefsid is subjective. Hefsid is not a A billionaire loses $100, it's a hefsid. That's ridiculous. So you're telling me for one Shabbos you lost $70 is a hefsid? It's a little bit difficult. Lemaisa the boys can take it on. I don't know. Chachani says similarly. He also says you're allowed to close it. I don't know. No one really knows why. Everyone asks these kashas. Why is it why this or that? But safe kol safe. Everyone. Some say turn off for the shinoi. Well, what's the shinoi? Use your elbow. I don't know. Yishla if that's even called a shinoi. And yeah, get it going. Yeah, that definitely would be an eitzah. I mean, you just have to know how mitziuti it is. I'm out of time, unfortunately. Let me just go for let me just go for 3 more minutes because there's actually there's one very important shayla, which is if something is cooked till Michael ben Dirsai, and then you cook it weiter if you're over bishul. Very important shayla. Lemaisa, you also the Mishnah Berurah and Chav Zayin, the Berlach and Siftalid that says b'diavad we could be makel, and that's usually the shayla, right? Because usually it's a b'diavad, you messed up and whatever. Stam, just tell you gishmak is shayla. I'll tell you the at the end. But Lemaisa b'diavad you could be makel. Fine. Where's this nageya? And this is wild. In the art school book, the Shabbos Kitchen says as follows: your cholent is burning. We spoke about this 100 times. You want to add hot water from the urn into your cholent. So we said it's pina micha. He says over there, theoretically, hot water from an urn can be added to cholent. However, since water in an urn rarely reaches boiling, 212, it cannot be returned to a pot where it might become boiled. And this would be a violation of cooking. So I don't know how hot your cholent gets. Pretty sure it gets pretty close to boiling. If it's burning, that means it was boiling. I think that's the science. I don't know if I'm wrong. Right. So you're cooking the water. You can't cook. This is cooking from Michael Bender's side, which is called Turkey. Good. So is boiling Vushkal Turkey. So this is something that Kimad Kol Gedele Baiskim say yes. Ramoshe L'chayr saves the world. And that's why it's interesting. The Shabbos Kitchen book doesn't go with Ramoshe. Because Ramoshe in Dalet Ayin Dalet Aleph says no. Yad Seledisbay is enough. He says Yad Seledisbay is called Vushkal Tsarkai for Bishul. For Bishul. There are other Ramoshes that maybe are Seiser what I just said. And it's not so pashit. But this is a very, very negative shot. And I have to think our boilers nowadays get hotter. Can anyone prove that point? No? The urns. You know the urns? They get crazy hot. No? They get even the pump guys, I feel, get hot nowadays. I don't know. 212 is boiling.
Maybe it's 190 now, 140.
Whatever it is. No, I agree with you. I found this, yeah. But again. So that's now good. So that's already going to be a new shayla. That's going to be, it was cooked to 212. It went down. That's much better. The chayra, that's what happens. Again, my kasha really is on the art school book. This book was just republished. This is talking to Heintig Mitzi is that the water gets hot. So I don't know. I'm just reading you what he says. But that's going to be the one shayla that's very negeya. I'll end just because it's Parshas B'Shalach. So now we're officially finished. The last 120 seconds is Chomish Torah during lunch. It's Parshas B'Shalach, Parshas Haman, Zok the Moshe Zakinim, who are whom? Bali Atesis. Thank you. He says, Shtein and Pasik, Esher Ta'afu Afu V'Sher Tavashilu Bashalu V'Skol Eidif. Alma Hayanefu Mitbashal. He wants to know how are they allowed to cook the man on Shabbos? That when you wanted to eat the man, when you take up a piece of man and you have in mind that it's Geshmaka Chalent, it's called cooking. He says, no. He says, the kivon deloya mishapich. This is a taisis. El alpi diburoi litavshel choshev tikin. To afilu hafaras nedarim the Shabbos ibarla nedarim is a shayla ishari v'avadat shari choshev tikin. So he's very upset. What's going on over here? They asked Rav Chaim Kanievsky. This is like a classical Rav Chaim story in Derech Hamuna. He said, we saw in the Sefer Moshe Zekanim, Parshas Ba'aleischa. I guess he brings it over there. That's where the pasuk is. But this week it's the month. So you gotta know what to do with the month. That he says, he has a kasha that they wanted to cook better, and it's called bishul. The tiritz, the b'Shabbos aser lachshiv. The Bali Taisa says you're not allowed to do this on Shabbos because it's called taken. It's not derech. Ich weiß nicht. So Rav Chaim says v'yesh le'ayin izeh mitakin zeh. Already zeh ain't zeh tikkun tivi. Like you're saying, like ain't derech bishul lekach. Ain't zeh tikkun tivi. V'ulai kivet shemaisa achila geiremesh yishafich tivoi, because it's via eating it havika oisa maisa. And it's not called the lechisha, which is whispering. That's where it's the Zilberstein, right? Yeah, classically he gets involved. Mashratz aser chayv chatos. He says a chiddush gadol sheish b'machshava iser Torah. That you think about something and makes it iser Torah. But that's for your Shabbos drasha b'siyata dishmai.